Thanks for tuning in to the second video in the trailer build series. In the first video we did the whole layout and explained why we were building the trailer, and in this video we cut all the wood, cut the paneling, and build the walls. We did run into some issues where the trailer's not exactly square, it's narrow at the bottom and wider at the top, and none of the beams that are going across the metal beams are the same height. So that gave us a lot of problems when we were building everything. So we troubleshoot and we fix everything. We want to keep the wall square because the cabinet is square and I didn't want that to be sticking or not look square inside of there. So you'll see all the troubles and the trials that we go through with this, but we get it done and it looks great by the end of it. I also have a pro tip for you when you're picking out your lumber. Make sure it's as straight as possible, as few knots as possible. So all you have to do is put one side on the ground and hold the other side up to your eye, and you should see if it's bowed or not. Most wood does have a little bit of a bow. It's usually called the crown, but the straighter the lumber you can find, the better and easier the project's going to be. Okay, so we cut the bottom piece, we cut one of the uprights, and then we cut the top piece. Top piece same length as the bottom. Here's the issue we're running into. These struts going across are at different heights. So that one's right there, this one's right there. So if we touch that to that, it's got a gap. So I was anticipating that every 2x3 going up was going to have to be at different heights. I didn't expect it to be that far off between these two. I checked, this top board is straight. I flipped it over again. It's the same. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to have to measure the next one, wedge it in, and then number these when we're ready to kind of tie it all together. But yeah, that's a little, I don't know, we'll just work around it. Okay, so we got all the wood cut, but this top board just progressively started getting worse and worse and worse. So I think what we're gonna do is leave the bottom board, leave this board, take this one out, take this one out, trim it so that the top of this is on the bottom side of this, and then that'll make it easier when we're connecting into the other wall over here. So I think that would be the next step. All right, so we think we figured out what we're gonna do. We got these basically roughed in cut. We made an outline on the bottom bar because what we're gonna do is we're gonna sand the bottom. We're gonna wood screw this thing down, but we're also gonna glue it down, kind of just over building it as much as possible. And that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna start sanding. All right, so now we're gonna apply some glue. What kind of glue?
This is Gorilla Wood Glue Ultimate.
So that was the reason I sanded it. So wood glue tends to like to stick to wood glue, not paint. So I'm also gonna, as soon as we get that in there, as soon as we measure it out and line it up, I'm gonna drill some holes and run some screws in too. So basically, good luck taking this thing off without cutting up the floor. Now this is a step you probably don't need to do, but I'm kind of rough on things. My kids are kind of rough on things, so. And then where Melissa's at right now, we're gonna put a bunch of shelves. So just as much strength right here as possible is gonna be a good thing. And no, the wood line isn't necessarily lined up to the tape line. It's lined up to that wall. So hopefully that wall is basically straight. Okay. So here's this. And then what we're gonna do is just the same as before, get that piece, and then I'll stand on this and then measure from there to there, and let's make sure we got that 24 inches. No. Yeah, like right like that. Okay, so I'm gonna drill a hole right here. Alright, so we're gonna run first screw in, making sure we're still at that 24. Which it looks like we basically are. Okay. Alright, just ran to the hardware store. These 2-inch ones were not working, so got these 2.5s. I'm gonna take out that 2-inch and that 2-inch, run these 2.5s. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you can feel the bite. If you can, I highly recommend getting the Torx bits. Some people call them star bits, but definitely better than Phillips. All right, so now that the bottom piece is done, we're gonna start with that first stud. We're gonna glue it to the wall, and then we're gonna screw it to the bottom stud. I'm gonna do something a little unconventional. My neighbor was throwing away a bunch of these basically little L brackets. I'll leave a link in the descriptions for an equivalent. I also found some at Lowe's, and I'll have a picture of them right there. So we're gonna use these, run screws through them, but you'll see as we're doing it. Alright, we got a big square right here where we're gonna make sure that the wall is 90 degrees from the floor. Alright, we're putting in these little beauties. Just gonna put in one. Make sure we are still square, which we are. Alright, so now that it's pretty well square to the floor. Actually, I can go over slightly. Alright, so the next step is we are going to glue right there. Alright, so we're just pulling that back a little bit. So one of the reasons to glue here instead of putting a screw through, it's really hard to tell how thick this wood actually is before you just go right through it and you're on the outside of it. All right, hold that. Okay, we're gonna make sure that we are still square. We're not go over. There, more. Okay, now we are square to the floor. And if you wanted to, you could run more glue down the sides just to make sure this thing's really stuck on there. There we go. You can put some back here if you want. Oh yeah. If you're gonna push right here on it. If you push up there, it's kind of bending around it. Oh. So it's probably gonna be happier right there. Oh, this is always, it does not hurt to keep double and triple checking that you are square. So basically what you want to do is make sure it's flat against the ground, and then see, we're a little bit off right now. Okay, go back. All right, so now we're gonna start working on the top piece, and then we're gonna work our way back. Okay, so we got the top piece. It's just mocked in again. We're gonna glue in here, and then we're gonna set that up, and then we're gonna make sure that this is parallel with the sides squared up. And then I'm gonna put another one of those silver L brackets right here, but what I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna screw it in here first, and then I'm gonna push that all the way forward and then screw to the top. but there's going to be glue here, glue there, and glue here. And then I think I'm going to put one of the L brackets right here with a self-tapping screw into that. We'll see how that works out. Alright, so then we're going to set this on there. This glue has plenty of working time. Alright, so we're putting that there, making sure that this is relatively lined up. So now I'm going to screw in that bracket that's going to hold this to that. Okay, now I'm going to push it back so that it is flush before I start screwing. And I'm going to make sure that that top board is pretty centered. Okay, there still is some adjustment on it, but it looks a lot better. So we're going to have to keep this pushed forward so that glue helps it to stick right there. But I think I am going to run another L bracket from here to here. I'm going to use a really small screw going into here though, because hopefully it's this thickness plus that thickness. So let's hope. And on this side I'm not going to run one because we got paneling and all kinds of stuff going on this side, you'll see. But I'm going to keep a lot of pressure on this side so I don't move the whole thing. Alright, let's double check, make sure we're square. We're still square. And it is locked in right here. And I think that we might put a little bit more glue going all the way around it just to seal it in. But so that's tying it in so the wall can't go this way. This is tying that in so that that can't go this way. This top part we made sure it was parallel with that wall as the bottom one is. Fun thing, we figured out the trailer is wider at the top than it is at the bottom, so that wall sort of curves out about a ½ inch from there to there, at least on the inside. So that was fun. You just gotta kind of adapt and build. So currently right now we're gonna put this bracket right here. I'm gonna attempt to put this self-tapping through the beam, and then we'll screw into that, and then that'll help this wall be a bit more stable. We'll see how fun this is though. Alright, made it in. Making sure everything's all nice and lined up. Good thing about a self-tapper, you don't need a drill, you don't need any of that. Unfortunately, these brackets aren't perfect as it's a little bit long, but the screw I'm going to put in, I'm going to try to maybe go up at a little bit of an angle and hope it doesn't just split everywhere. Once again, that's a Torx bit. Had little to no problem getting that in there. I did have to put a lot of force going up. So now I'm just going to use the smaller one. I'm going to be pushing it all the way up towards the top. Alright, it doesn't need to be crazy tight. We'll check again to make sure we're parallel, but then we're also going to put another one right there. And then unfortunately that's not long enough back there. We'll figure something else out, but that should make this wall pretty well bulletproof. Okay, make sure you don't over torque those because the threads are kind of weak. Just don't go crazy tight on those. It doesn't really need it. I'm gonna just run this one in. Same with that one. It doesn't need to be crazy. Now that thing is pretty well locked in. Now we'll start on the back half of it. All right, so right here, we're pretty much gonna do the same thing we did everywhere else. We're gonna glue it. We're gonna put that bracket. We're gonna glue it and put that bracket. And then the back will be done. All right, so we glued and put the little bracket on there, put it on here. Now, when we put the square up, it was a little bit off. So I think that this was a little bit off, but what I was able to do was just kind of force and bend it. And now that is exactly 90 degrees as well as that, which is pretty important since we're putting the cabinet right there and didn't want like a weird gap. So now what we're gonna do is the 2 boards that we originally cut, we're going to now measure from here to here, maybe pushing up a little bit, and we're gonna cut that one, put that one in, and then we're gonna cut this one and put this one in. So from right there to there, there to there. Okay, we got both of those cut and installed. I just have those little L brackets in and a ton of wood glue. Now, if you're a framer or professional, you could probably build this like 1,000 different ways. This is the way that we're choosing to build it because it's fast and it's easy. Not to mention, the trailer is taller right here, shoulder right there, wider right here, narrower down there. It's kind of off everywhere, so we're doing what we can. We're making sure everything's square. So the next thing we're gonna do, we've cut the bottom piece that's gonna go for the wall right here. And I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna notch this out so that it goes into there. And then that means we're gonna be able to have a piece right here and right here, bracing this even more. But we're probably gonna notch that right now just to make sure that all that's good. But before we start doing this wall, we're probably gonna panel this because, as I said before, I think the panels are not gonna fit through this door. They would only fit through that door. All right, so here's what we marked out. So we're basically gonna cut all the way down here and then right here, so that'll be the notch. I'm gonna use a oscillating plunge cutter, see how it works. Boom. All right, so lined it all up. That's what we were thinking. So we're thinking about putting another piece on this side and then a piece on this side to fully encapsulate that wall. And then have we're thinking about putting another 2x3 on here and then with clamps gluing it to this wall. We just got this thing all cut out. It was a little bit challenging. Had to go back and, you know, fit it a little bit. So I think what we're gonna do now is screw it, maybe glue it, and maybe move on to the next piece here. It's just gonna be a small piece here. We may put a 2x4 here to help make sure that's stable. Okay, that's all screwed in now. Feels pretty good, you know. So as I was saying, right here we'll probably put a 2x4, one of these 2x3s going down lengthwise so that we could screw into it, so that this part, when these two pieces butt up together, it's you know, they don't look like a offset from each other. Okay, so it's day 2. Everything seemed to hold up all night. The glue seemed to dry fine. Here's the piece for this side, which is notched out. We're gonna cut another one of these for the top, and we're gonna cut another piece right there to reinforce the seam. And then I think we're gonna cut the upright right there and right here to support this piece. Okay, we cut all of the boards to frame this part in, just have it clamped right now. get up in here. So we notched out this, and we'll probably run a screw through here to tie that in, and then screws through here to tie that in, and then screws down there. This, we're gonna have to sand this, screw that in. Nothing's perfectly lined up right now, but I don't know if you can see right here, but it's flush right here, and then it goes under flush, and then it goes really under flush, and then it goes back to flush, and then it's over flush down here. So we might have to trim that. But that's not bad. Got that notched out. Basically, I took the bottom piece that we had already cut out, and then I just Sharpied out on this other piece exactly where to cut. So basically what we're gonna do now is we're gonna probably work our way from the bottom, glue that piece in, make sure it's square. It's square right now. That little gap right there is for the other panel piece that's gonna go in. So we're just gonna glue that in and then work our way up. Okay, so this part's done. I actually drilled a few screws into here and found out that there was a beam going across the bottom. So we have this board and that board pressing down on it. And that should be good enough of that, along with half a gallon of glue. This is now being clamped in because we glued that, and then I put another one of these brackets here going across here, screwed it into there, put another piece right here. Now this thing is, it literally shakes the whole trailer. Right here is a good indication of the bow at the top. You know, it helps for rain runoff and stuff like that, but it doesn't help for building on the inside with straight lumber. So, you know, I can stick my finger through there, can't there, you know, so just have to build and adapt, and you get to the point where it just needs to look good aesthetically to the eye. Very similar thing here where it's almost flush there, and then it goes under flush, and then way beyond flush. You know, it's like way over right there. So I think our next step is we're gonna cut the piece that goes right here of that, and then we're gonna measure out the piece that goes right here, and then cut that, and then probably put that over here, and then put the uprights right here to help that. Or we might put the uprights in later because we're mounting a table on this side and right here, and we'll see how that goes. I measured today, the table has mounting points 36 inches apart, so we might just wait for that, but cut the panel, get all that stuff in. Okay, got that panel put in, this panel cut and put in. The cuts aren't exactly perfect, and if you can cut things perfect, then good on you, but what I'm going to be putting over this is pretty much going to hide all of that, so it doesn't necessarily matter. Would I have liked them to be perfect? Yes. Did I want to spend the time to make them perfect? Not necessarily. So here we are on the back. I added this 2x3 so that this piece had something to screw into, and it just added another point of rigidity there. So now there's no studs holding anything right here yet. I may still wait until we install that table, because the table is a folding table that installs to the wall. I like that idea, so then that way this whole space right here, that table won't be taking it up and can fold down. So I might bring that in to finish up this side, and then once studs are in, obviously I will, you know, put more screws into this. Okay, so back on this side, I think what I want to do now is I want to put the sink and the toilet back in. From the original sort of mock-up, I left that piece of tape there so that we could see that pretty much we just extended the wall that way. The piece of tape that was right here, basically it never changed. That wall is pretty much on top of where that piece of tape was. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean all this up, and then I'm going to put the sink and the toilet in,
to just double check everything and see how it looks now. Okay, got everything in. Thank goodness none of the dimensions moved. Everything looks pretty much the same. Here I am sitting down. There's my knee going underneath that. There's sort of like a dead area here, but we got some ideas about that. That's just a hanging light I have in here. We will be actually putting lights in here, but it's not bad. So this is just pretty much just making sure, just keep test fitting, because you don't want to go too far and then have to start undoing stuff. So it's always good to just keep testing it, making sure everything still fits. Looks good.
Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we install some flooring. Of course we were going to install some flooring. We weren't going to just leave it yellow. We also install some wood-ish paneling just to make it feel a little bit more homey. So if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments, like, share, and subscribe. And also there's a playlist that you can always keep up to date with.